पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. Today we will continue on the principal teachings of Bhagavad Gita. We have already covered chapters up to 9. We will take a few more chapters to highlight some of the very important teachings of this great writing or great conversation between Arjun and Krishna. Now, we saw last time that Lord Krishna in chapter 4 first time revealed his identity as Supreme Being, as an avatar. But then from chapter 7 onwards, 7, 8, and 9, he was talking about what is this universe, how it came into being, what are its ingredients, how it arises. So those chapters dealt with those profound questions concerning the universe itself. Now, in chapter 10, 11, and 12, in chapter 10, actually, he explains some of the mysteries of the universe before he reveals his, what we call, his expression in different forms in response to a question from Arjun. But the very important fact he reveals here is, and he calls it a Param Satya, Param Vachan. He tells in verse number 2 and verse number 3, Ne me vidu surguna prabhavam ne maharsaye ahmadir chi devanam maharsi naam cha sarvashay. That मेरी उत्पत्ति को लीला के सहित मैं जब पैदा होता हूं, when I appear as an avatar in this universe, nobody knows about me and nobody can know about me because my origin goes before the origin of the Devtas, that is the divine powers, and all the Maharishis. Now, Maharishis and Devtas originated much after the origin of the Supreme. The origin of the Supreme has no beginning actually. It is there perpetually forever. And that is why he explains that neither the divine forces nor the Maharshis can actually understand my appearance or my Leela or my avatar in this universe. Now, this is very fascinating. You see, if we want to understand the birth of our grandfather, we cannot understand that because we came much after his birth. We only hear about his birth, that he was there. He lived, and maybe some of us saw him in the old age. And that is how we understand. So we cannot actually understand his appearance, his birth, how he came. It is only understood through the words of those people who lived during that time and whatever we saw. So that is true for the Supreme also. Those who appeared after him, they can only know him through the words and the stories which were reiterated to them. And therefore, they do not understand the reality of the appearance of the Supreme. So this is this is what you call a riddle, that no divine power and no being can ever understand the existence of the Supreme in that sense. But it does not mean that we cannot understand. Yes, we can understand if we become one with Him. And that is what the power of yoga, that is what the power of knowledge, that is what the power of surrender is. So, this is what he says in verse number 2 and also verse number 3. Verse number 3, he says, जो मुझको अजन्मा अर्थात वास्तव में जन्म रहित अनादि दैट विदाउट एनी ओरिजिन लोगों का महान ईश्वर तत्व से जानता है वह मनुष्यों में ज्ञानवान पुरुष संपूर्ण पापों से मुक्त हो जाता है. So we have to understand him as without beginning, as the supreme of the entire universe, as the most knowledgeable. That is why we use three words in English. They actually originate from Sanskrit. That is omniscient, omnipresent, and omniscient, omnipresent, and what do you call knowledge? Everything within.
Omnipotent, sir.
Omnipotent, yes. Omnipotent, omniscient, and omni. Uh, and these words actually originate from Om. That Om that is most powerful, potent. Om that is everywhere. Om that is full of knowledge or with complete knowledge. Omniscient. So these words are the words which have their origin in the Supreme from the very beginning. And that is what we should understand. We should know Him accordingly. And then we can, try to become one with Him. So this is these verses 2 and 3 are very significant. They reveal what we call the hidden truth, which is not apparent to us. Now, after that, he talks about in many forms he appear. Actually, Arjuna asked him a very longish question that reveal me some of your vibhutis, some of your manifestations in this universe. And then he goes into the details of those manifestations one after another. And basically, what he means there is that in every single existence in this universe, he's present, he's there. So let us just look at one verse, verse number 20, to understand this whole concept. अहम आत्मा गुड़ाकेश सर्वभूत स स्थित अहमादिश च मध्यम च भूतानाम मन एव च. हे अर्जुन, मैं सब भूतों में स्थित उनका हृदय हूं, उनकी आत्मा हूं, उनका आदि मध्य और अंत भी मैं ही हूं. सब भूतों में. Bhut means all that exists. So he is the core of existence of every single thing which we see in this universe. And he is the beginning, middle, and end of all that. So this is the crux in actually various phrases expressed in different ways, but this is the crux of chapter 10. So he says that nobody can really understand me because I am the beginning of the beginning. And everybody came after that, therefore, there is no way to understand him before. And then he says that I am in existence everywhere. I am the core of every single existence in this world. And I am the beginning, middle, and the end of every single existence. So I think if we can understand that, that is good enough for us to understand chapter 10. Then in chapter 11, actually, he reveals, Arjun is requesting him that if I could see your Viswarup, your universal form, if you consider me that I'm eligible to see that. You should show me. You show me this. And Lord Krishna naturally considered him eligible. And then he gave him what we call Divya Drashti. Now, Divya Drashti and is something which enables you to see all the non-manifest existence. Now, the Divya Drashti was given to him especially for that occasion. But some of the rishis who do surrender to the Supreme completely, they also acquire that Divya Drashti and they are able to see the Supreme. What they see that time is that they see the entire existence as manifestation of the Supreme. Whatever is here, in whatever form, whether that is living form or non-living form, all that exists, whether it is Akash or whether it is various planets and galaxies or whether it is various forms of lives, all that is seen by them as the manifestation of the Supreme. So, this is what Lord Krishna actually reveals in chapter 11. He gives Divya Drashti to Arjun, and Arjun is able to see. Now, Lord Krishna is not saying much in this chapter. The verses are either from Arjun or from Sanjay. They are explaining different forms of what they saw in the whole universe, which was in front of them. So, in this chapter, we will have a look at verse number 12 and 13. Now, verse number 12 is very interesting because uh, this verse has also been used, or this has become the foundation of one of the great poem called Brahma by one of the Western philosophers. So I'll go to that little later. But verse number 12 says, Divi Surya Sahasrasya Badhev Yug Pathutitha Yadi Bha Sadrasi Sashyat Bhasas Mahatmanam. आकाश में हजार सूर्यों के एक साथ उदय होने से जो प्रकाश होता है वह भी उस विश्व रूप परमात्मा के प्रकाश से सदृश कदाचित ही होवे. This is what Sanjay says. He saw the Supreme and he says, even thousand suns appear at the same time in the sky. The entire light that emanates from those suns is nothing compared to the light which he saw in the Supreme when he appeared in this universal form. So, this is what Lord Krishna says here. And then Sanjay also explains that पांडुपुत्र अर्जुन ने उस समय अनेक प्रकार से विभक्त अर्थात पृथक पृथक संपूर्ण जगत को देवों के देव श्री कृष्ण भगवान के उस शरीर में एक जगह स्थित देखा. तो whatever was existing in this universe anywhere in whatever form, that was visible in that universal form of the Supreme of Lord Krishna, which he revealed to Arjun in the battlefield. So, this is what he says, that everything which we can see is emanates from the Supreme, is there in the Supreme. He cannot be understood because he is the origin of all origins, he is the cause of all causes. And that is what he is revealing in these chapters here. Now, let's also have a look at verse number 45 of this chapter, because in this chapter, then Lot of things have been explained. Arjuna says that he sees all the beings coming in, all the beings disappearing. He sees the entire world, universe that was existing at that time in the body form of Lord Krishna. So now here, finally, when he sees that Prabhav, Sthiti and Vilay. Prabhav means the origin, Sthiti means whatever is existing, and Vilay means whatever is disappearing. So that is Janam, life, and the death, Mrityu. All three could be seen by him in variety of ways, and he becomes absolutely scared. He is petrified. He doesn't know what to do. He lost his senses. So, this is what happens when you see the entire universe in one single form in one place. All that is taking birth, all that is taking shape, all that is transforming from one shape to another, all that is living and all that is dying, all that was seen in one single body, and that petrified Arjuna. And that is where he says, अदृष्टपूर्वं हर्षितो अस्मि दृष्ट्वा भयञ्च प्रव्यथिं मनो मे तदेव मे दर्शय देव रूपम प्रसीद देवस जगन निवास. मैं पहले इस देखे हुए आपके आश्चर्यमय रूप को देखकर हर्षित हो रहा हूं. मेरा मन भय से अति व्याकुल भी हो रहा है. इसलिए आप उस अपने चतुर्भुज रूप को ही मुझे दिखाइए. हे देवेश, हे जगन निवास, प्रसन्न होइए. So Arjun feels that Lord is very angry with him when he showed him all that. But that was not the case. He just revealed the truth of the entire universe to Arjun. And Arjun was petrified. So he is now telling him that this is very, very, scary image. I don't want to see this anymore. So please appear in your, Chaturbhuj form, in your Vishnu room. So this is what happens when you see the Supreme in one single form, the whole universe existing in one place. So that could be very, very petrifying for our sense organs because we are not used to that. We do not understand it. This also happens in our life sometimes when we see something very unusual happening. Then we are taken aback how this happened. This is how it is possible. So this is the impossible thing which Arjun saw in front of his eyes. And that is why he said all that. So basically, as you know, in chapter 11, Lord Krishna reveals the whole universe. He reveals the Prabha, Sthiti, and Vilay. That is the birth, the transformation, the life, and the death of the entire universe. And basically, he says that this is what the universe is. What is universe? The supreme is the universe. The supreme is everywhere in the universe. That is why we say that Ram कण कण में निवास करता है. Hari सब जगह है. The meaning of that is that the supreme is existing everywhere. Without him, nothing is possible. No form, no name, no image can be seen without him. As we see on a TV screen, everything happening, all kinds of stories happen there. Music and dramas and sports and, news and everything comes there on the same screen. They come and they disappear. Similarly, the screen of the Supreme is there in this universe. And on that screen, everything appears. It's not only appears in case of TV, they are made to appear, but in case of the Supreme, they appear on their own. Nobody makes them appear. They appear. and then they disappear. So this is what this universe is all about. So he continues to explain from chapter 7 till chapter 11, 12, that chapter 11, the whole form of the universe, how it came into existence, how it runs, how it is managed, all those things were explained in great detail in these chapters. So this is what we call the, the mysteries of the universe. If we want to understand the mysteries, I think these chapters tell us the mysteries of this universe. And that is why he also called them Param Gyan, that is the Gyan, the knowledge which is ultimate, the knowledge which is ultimate because this reveals that which is non-manifest. Now, chapter 12. Chapter 12 is, it's very difficult for me to say that this is, the core verse of this chapter or the core chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because every verse is a core verse and every chapter is a core chapter, because they reveal something absolutely different and new in a different form. Now, chapter 12 actually starts with a question, and he talks about Nirgun Nirakar and Sagun Sakar. The question is that which is better or which is understood correctly? Could we worship the Supreme in Sagun Sakar or should we do it in Nirgun Nirakar? Which is also a big fight in the real world, in the world in which we live. Some people consider that idol worshipping is not good. They destroyed idols all over the world. And they believe in Nirakar. But Lord Krishna is explaining here that I exist in both because Sagun Sakar comes from Nirakar. So I am in both the forms. And he further explains that Sagun Sakar is easier for humans to understand because they also have a body and their sense organs can understand the name and the form properly. So this is what he says here, that yes, both people, both kind of persons who worship Nirgun Nirakar and Sagun Sakar, they are both my followers. They both respect me. But he feels that it is easier for those who worship Sagun Sakar because for them the God is easily understood. They can follow the form, they can follow the name, and they can surrender to him. And that is why in Hinduism, we have this tradition of temples where Pran Pratishtha is established in the idols, and those idols are actually worshipped, considering them as the form of the Supreme. So, this is what Lord Krishna said here in verse number 2. मुझ में मन को एकाग्र करके निरंतर भजन ध्यान में लगे हुए जो भक्तजन अतिशय श्रेष्ठ श्रद्धा से युक्त होकर मुझ सगुण रूप परमेश्वर को भजते हैं वे मुझ को योगियों में भी अति उत्तम योगी महसूस होते हैं क्योंकि बिकॉज दे अंडरस्टैंड द सुप्रीम ईजियर. Those who are looking for the Supreme in Nirgun Nirakar, they actually delude themselves because they are not elevated enough to understand the Nirgun Nirakar form of the Supreme. And that is why they deviate from the right path. So, this is what happens. This is what actually has happened in this world. For example, in Islam, they are all against idol worshipping and they believe in Nirkun Nirakar. But to begin with, they are also not fully convinced with that because they go to Kaaba. The Kaaba is Sakar, that is Sagun. They go to mosque. Mosque is also a Sagun form. And therefore, they also find some refuge in the Sagun Sakar. Moreover, those who completely believe in Nirakar, they are not able to stabilize their mind completely. Because when you think about Nirakar, Nirgun, you you can't even think what it means because your experience does not reveal anything about it. The human limitation is that you can imagine things which you either have seen or read or heard. But if you have not heard, if you have not seen, if you have not read, then how do you understand that? You cannot imagine. And that is the problem of Nirgun Nirakar. Nirgun Nirakar cannot be written, cannot be explained, cannot be identified, and therefore, those people who are looking for that, they very often astray from the path. They are not able to maintain themselves properly. So, this is what Lord Krishna has said in the beginning of this chapter that it is easier to have perception or understanding of Sagun Sakar than Nirgun Nirakar. Though he confirms that he exists in both the forms and the people can attain him both through Sagun Sakar Roop and through Nirgun Nirakar Roop. Now, he goes further down and explains, many things in this chapter, but I will take verse number 18 and 19. Basically, he says, this chapter is also called chapter of surrender or bhakti, where after showing his universal form, after explaining the entire universe, he tells Arjun that the best thing is that you surrender yourself to the Supreme because he is so powerful, he is so uh, immeasurable, so beyond understanding that there's no point in trying to attempting to do certain things. Just surrender and accept what he tells you to do. And therefore, he also comes at the end to the same concept which he has propounded earlier, that is, you should be observing equanimity in all the situations because all the situations ultimately arise from different forms of the Supreme. If somebody is abusing you, he is also part of the Supreme. If somebody is praising you, he is also part of the Supreme. So one aspect is, expressed by one person, another by another person. And there are multiple aspects which are explained by multiple, humans in this world. And that is why he tells that you don't have to worry about what they say. You remain established in the truth and do the things which are right, which are correct, which are according to your understanding should be done. So in verse number 18 and 19, he tells verse number 18, Samay satru cha mitre cha तथा मानाय मानोयो शीतोष्ण सुख दुखेशु समय संग विवर्जित है जो शत्रु और मित्र मान और अपमान में सम है तथा सर्दी गर्मी और दुख सुख आदि द्वंद्वों में आसक्ति से रहित है वह मेरे को प्राप्त होता है. Because all these dvand, all these dualities, all these changes which are happening outside in the world, they should not impact your inner self. Your inner self remain static, fully established in the Supreme, and that Supreme has been explained by him in great detail from chapter 7 to chapter 11. And then he continues on the same path. He says, तुल्य निंदा स्तुतिर्मय मौनी संतुष्टो येन केंचित अनिकेत स्थिर मतिर भक्तिमान में प्रियो नर. जो निंदा स्तुति को समान समझने वाला, मननशील और जिस किसी भी प्रकार से शरीर का निर्वाह हो उसमें संतुष्ट रहने वाला, किसी भी स्थान या व्यक्ति में ममता और आसक्ति से रहित हो, वह स्थिर बुद्धि पुरुष मुझको प्रिय है. So this is what ultimately he tells, that remain established in the Supreme. Don't be vacillated by what people tell you, what is happening around the world. Just keep observing the changes, just keep listening, but don't get vacillated, don't waver, remain established in the Supreme, because the whole universe is nothing but the expression of the Supreme. So these chapters explain that the different forms of the Supreme which are in the manifest form. These are explained in chapter 10 and chapter 11, but the how the whole universe comes into being has been explained in chapter 7, 8, and 9 in great detail. So these are the greatest secrets which we can see that exist in this universe. So I think the chapter 13 is a very uh, important chapter. I want to take that up separately. So I won't go into chapter 13 today. We will deal with it in the next session. But meanwhile, if we want to understand the mysteries of the universe, I think chapter 7, 8, and 9, they reveal the entire truth, and 10 and 11 are just the manifestation which you can see of that secret. So this is what we should understand from these chapters of Bhagavad Gita. They explain some of the most sacred and secret truths of this universe. Thank you.